one exception. We in the pipe band play one rudiment completely differently than any other style of music, and the rudiment is the drag, okay? Unless you're a pipe band drummer, you typically would play a drag with two doubles on one hand, followed by a main note. Okay, that'll be your drag. We don't do that in pipe band, okay? We instead have changed that double from this into what we call a dead stroke. So the stick comes down, hits the head, and stays completely still, and it looks like this. That's it. Very quiet. Then we followed up with our main note, so the drag in Scottish pipe band drumming looks like this. Now you're probably saying, well, isn't that just a flam? Right? It's one grace note before the main note. The difference being a flam, the grace note hits the head and comes off. A drag hits the head and stays there. And if you listen, you can hear a difference between this and this. And it turns the flam into a drag. So it completely deadens the head. Within a rudiment that you might see a run of singles, so if you watch my left hand, you'll see that for a split second it stops and then plays some singles and then stops again. So it gives a completely different sound, and I've never seen any other style of music use this dead stroke. Certainly in a fife and drum corps you couldn't really, because the tension on the head is so different. Now it's written the same way. So I'm having Gary pass out some sheet music for those that might be interested in some of the tunes that I'm going to play today. And the drag will be written the exact same way. It's written as two grace notes and then a main note after it. Now the other thing you'll notice looking at the music, which may be foreign to some of you, is that we use the Berger monolinear scale when we write our music. So there is one line rather than a staff of 5 lines, and there are notes written above the line and notes written below the line. Notes written above the line are played with the right hand, and I don't think I need to be a rocket scientist to tell you that notes written below the line are played with the left hand. So when I see a roll that starts on the right hand and ends on the left hand, right, above the line, below the line, that's going to be a 7-stroke roll. Right? Starts on the right, left. So it takes all the guesswork out of it. We in pipe bands don't have to read little R's and L's underneath notes to try and figure out, oh, what hand is this supposed to be played on? Because it tells it for us completely. So the other thing that we do within pipe band drumming is we want what we play to accentuate the melody that the bagpiper is playing. Within a lot of DCI corps that I have heard, and I'm only speaking for myself, the playing is incredibly precise, and the amount of time and effort that these guys put into playing is so precise. But I often don't hear that it really accentuates the melody. You can't necessarily hear the melody from the drumming that they're playing. And a well-written pipe band drum score, if you play the drum score, you can almost hear the pipe tune. So how many people have heard the pipe tune Scotland the Brave? Right? It goes like this. Da-dum-ba-dee-da-da-da-da-da. Right? So an example of a well-written drum score for that tune, you should hear the tune in the score. So the tune is da-da-ba-dee-ba-da-da. So when I'm playing, I'm hoping that you can read along with what I'm playing, and you can really listen to what the piper is playing, because I do have my friend Harvey McClendon here. Harvey, come on up. And we're gonna play some tunes. Believe me when I tell you, he does not need a microphone, because for those that don't know, bagpipes have 2 volumes. Does anybody know what those 2 volumes are? Loud and off. That's right. Sorry, Harvey, just kidding. So we're gonna. What's that?
Like that thing on my office.
But so he mentioned like this thing's not loud. He's right. This is a really loud drum, but we at least can play quiet. And so when I'm playing, I want you to really listen to what Harvey is playing on the pipes. But you'll notice that his volume is always the same, and some of the stuff that I play will be quiet to accentuate more of what he's doing. So the first tune we're going to play is the March, and it is called Pipe Major Willie Gray's Farewell to Glasgow Police. There are 4 parts on the page, so if you are going to read along, it'll repeat the first 2 lines. It'll play the first 2 lines and then repeat them, the next 2 lines and repeat them, the next 2 lines repeat, and the next 2 lines repeat. However, the 4th part, you'll see it's notated. On the repeat, you go up a line, but you'll figure it out. So without further ado, Pipe Major Willie Gray's Farewell to Glasgow Police. So hopefully you could hear and read along and see the drags that I played that are so different from what you probably have seen if you haven't been involved in pipe bands at all. The other thing that you may have noticed is most of it, we play a lot of closed rolls, right? We have the ability to do that because of our head. Obviously on a rope tension drum you can't really play a buzz, right? And you can in DCI cores, but it's not something that, as I understand, is commonly done. It's usually most all open stuff. So the last set that we're going to play is a hornpipe and a jig. Okay, they're 2 different styles of music that you may not have seen much. The hornpipe is called Alistair Gillies, and there are 2 parts to the tune. So it's the first 2 lines repeated, and then the next 4 lines. I believe on the page it goes straight down, 4 lines. So I think there's 6 lines on that page. And then we're going to go into a jig, which is on the other side, called the Kitchen Maid. And I think the Kitchen Maid is an excellent example of how the drum score really, really fits the pipe tune really, really, really well. So there'll be a tempo change in here because hornpipes and jigs are played at different speeds. So we'll play these 2 tunes, and then if anyone has any questions, I'm certainly more than happy to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'm really good at making stuff up. And you won't know that I'm doing it because if you ask the question, you probably don't know the answer. So. Thank you, Harvey. I appreciate you coming out
Those drums there.
and playing with me today,
Kevlar
tonight.
head on
So
And it's got
hopefully this
snares
gave
on
you a
the
little
top
bit
and
of
bottom
an
heads.
idea on what it is that we
It's
do,
got snares
how it
underneath
is
both the
different
top
from
and
what
bottom heads.
you might typically see
sets of snares.
in your own drumming world, and how what we do in a lot of ways is very similar, right? Everything similar in terms of we need a way to start with a piper, we need a way to start the tune so we're together on the same page at the same tempo. For us it's a roll off. The roll off isn't bum bum ch bum bum ch, right? But it's something that kind of puts us all on the same page. So it gives you a little bit of an idea, something a little different. Hopefully you could follow along with the music that was handed out. I'll be completely honest with you, I have no idea how much time I'm supposed to be filling up here. But if anybody has any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. Anything? Yes? Huh? And I'm assuming that there are stock beats that pipe bands use when they nest, right? Good question. Yes, there are. So I played a score for Pipe Major Willie Grace, Farewell to Glasgow Police. A band in California might play that same tune, but their drum beating might be completely different. So we in the association realized pretty quickly, oh, shoot, if these two bands get together, or bunches of bands get together, the bagpipers are going to play the same thing. The tune is the tune. So we need a way for the drummers to play the same thing. And so we do have what we call massed band beatings for all of the marches. There aren't really mass band beatings for jigs and strathspeys and reels and hornpipes because those are less commonly played and more played at higher levels. So we wrote mass band beatings for all marches, 4/4, 2/4, 6/8, 3/4. So yes, we do have those. Yep. Any other questions? Oh, you guys are making it easy on me. I love it. Oh, another question. Yep. There are three things that make this drum different from drums you may have seen. This is a drum made by a company in Ireland called Andante, but Pearl and Premier do make pipe band models. And if at a quick glance you'll look at them and they will look exactly like drums that you'd see in a DCI core. What makes this drum different is the free-floating head, which you will see in DCI cores, right? So all the tension on the head is here, so we can have a Kevlar head. The second thing that makes it different is all the snares are all wire, like you would see on a drum set snare drum, as opposed to gut strings or snares. And then the third thing is there are snares on the bottom head that you can see, but if you look closely on the top head, there are snares as well. So I do have two sets of snares, an internal set up top here and a lower set underneath. The other thing we can't do is I have no way to quickly release my snares like you do on a drum set snare drum or on a DCI drum, where you can there's a little lever you can flip. We don't have that. I have to take a key and turn it. Because we in the pipe band world have no need nor want to quickly turn our snares off. We always want that crisp sound. So, yep, there are two snares. I thought I saw a question over here. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. Rose Morris. Yep, they did. I am familiar with the Rose Morris drum. I've refurbished some. Yep, they did have snares top and bottom, and they were used in pipe bands for many years before they essentially the Premier company bought them out and started taking their design and turned it into what is today the Premier drum. Yep. Yes, that's another stylistic difference that you may have noticed between DCI and pipe band. DCI, as I understand it, and I have done a little bit, but it's very wrist-oriented. Whereas pipe band, we're very arm-oriented. So on our right hand, we're using my back three fingers, as opposed to my wrist. And on the left hand, I'm using predominantly my thumb. I'm not getting this sort of motion. It's all done with the thumb. So yeah, that's you know, the rudiment might be the same, but the way we play it would be a little different. Yeah, very, very grip oriented. Yes, sir, in the back. Yep. So the American open drag would be played, and our closed drag will be a dead stroke. It's written the same way, but played differently. If we in pipe band wanted to hear an open double, we would write it with an open double, which if you look on the scores, you'll see there are lots of places where there are open doubles. We will write it out that way rather than using grace notes to write it. Gary, how much time do I have? One more question. Oh, yes, sir. No. No, rarely. Yep, the pipe band plays, because here's the reality. For those that may not have heard the question, if I were to play a funeral, would I play on a muffled drum? There's no way to muffle the bagpipes. There's no way to muffle the bagpipes. So we're not going to get hurt. If I muffle my drum, we won't get hurt. So if we can't muffle the bagpipes and have them play quieter, there would be no point for us to play quieter. So good question. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to come out and play for you. I'm going to stick around for the night. If anybody has any questions at all, don't hesitate to let me know. I am New England's only full-time pipe band drumming instructor. This is what I do for a living, and I love what I do because I do what I love. So if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate. So thank you very much.